All right, let's get started. So first off, thank you all so much for joining us in the next hour for our UC Berkeley virtual panel. Really hope that you have lots of good questions for us because we are looking forward to answering them. All right, so to start us off, so the format of today's panel is going to be a 1 hour panel, like I said, with a Q&A. Keep in mind that the regular chat is disabled, so if you have any questions, then please make sure to make use of Zoom's Q&A function, because that is where you'll be asking the questions that we can answer. And if you need any more information, then please go ahead and send an email over to visit.berkeley.edu or send an email over to tour@berkeley.edu. And a student ambassador will get back to you with an answer to your question. All right, so a little bit about myself. My name is Albert. I'm going to be today's moderator for today's panel. So my pronouns are he, him, and his. I am from right across the bay from Berkeley in San Francisco. I'm a second year, and my majors are computer science and cognitive science. I'm also involved in debate on campus. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. And let me pass it off to today's panelists now.
Hello everyone, my name is Zeynep. I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and that is where I'm currently at right now. I'm a sophomore, and I'm currently studying environmental sciences with a biological concentration, and I'm involved in the Kalski and snowboard team as a snowboarder, Turkish Students Association, Greek life. I'm still a hall mentor for an elementary school kid, and I'm also an undergraduate learning mentor for one of our biology classes. Good to have you all here.
Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm originally from San Jose, California, but I'm currently broadcasting to you all live from Berkeley. I'm currently a sophomore studying political science with a minor in public policy. And apart from my role as a campus ambassador, I'm also part of the UC Rally Committee, which is our spirit group on campus. I'm also part of the Vietnamese Student Association and I was formerly part of the Residence Hall Assembly, which is kind of like the student government, but for those living in the dorms. And I'll pass it on to the next campus ambassador.
Hi everyone, my name's Violet. I use the she pronoun series, and my hometown is Berkeley, California. So I was born and raised right here in Berkeley, did not go far for college. I'm going into my third year, but I will be graduating this spring, and I study physical geography, which is somewhere in between social sciences and earth sciences. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about it later. Some of the things I do on campus include dancing with Berkeley's competitive Latin and ballroom dancing team, Cal Ballroom. I'm involved in undergraduate research in our geography department. I love to hike and go outside, so I'm also a member of CHAOS, Cal Hiking and Outdoor Society. And this past academic year, I was living in a Berkeley Student Cooperative, which is a housing system here on campus.
All right, so another thing to keep in mind is that periodically some polls will be popping up on your screen. The first one of these should be popping up in just a second. These are just to get a sense of who is joining us today. So feel free to fill those out if you want. If you don't have to, if you don't want to, but just want to better get an idea of who's joining us today. So, who are you? Are you a high school senior, high school junior? Are you prospective transfer student? Feel free to go ahead and answer that if you'd like. While we wait on responses to those, I'll go ahead and ask the first question, which is directed to Jimmy. So what was your freshman experience like, and what were life in the dorm like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the introduction, I'm currently a sophomore, so my freshman experience is still pretty fresh in my mind. Academically, I really wanted to take it easy my first semester here at Cal. So I took 13 units, which is the minimum number of units. And my reason for that was just like, I really wanted to just like transition slowly into the campus. And I really valued just like exploring what Berkeley had to offer. So in terms of clubs, I really like went like full in getting involved. I went to a lot of the intro meetings for a lot of clubs, and that's how I ended up settling on joining the Vietnamese Student Association and the UC Rally Committee. My experience, I think the highlight of my freshman year was definitely the UC Rally Committee, getting the opportunity to go to all these football games and just cheering with my fellow RallyCom members, doing cart stunts, setting up before the game and cleaning up after the game. For me, that was really like the highlight of my freshman year. In terms of the dorms, I had the opportunity to do a double within Unit 1. I think my favorite part of the dorms was definitely getting that close-knit community that I had with my floor mates. Something that I thought was a little bit different at first is that we had um, shared bathrooms, but I think that we really quickly got adjusted to it. We had community guidelines, and I think I like to tell a lot of people that it's only weird if you make it weird. I think a lot of people within the dorms are really respectful with each other, and I think a highlight for the dorm life was definitely getting to go and visit my friends late at night. We would go on bubble runs and just like food runs late at night after classes. So for me, overall, like I had a really great freshman experience, even though it was unfortunately cut short due to COVID-19. I'm still fortunate that I was able to make the most of my first semester.
Yeah, same here, Jimmy. I feel like you and I had very similar freshman experiences in a way. Unit one, best unit of all the dorms, just saying. Okay, so next question. This one's for Violet. So, what's the student professor relationship like, and how open are they to helping you?
That's a great question. I mean, it does depend on the professor. I'll start with that. But speaking from my own experience, so I study geography, and that's a pretty small department on campus. A lot of departments on campus are actually pretty small when you look at, the number of students in them, the class sizes, things like that. And so I've always had very personal interactions with my professors. If you go to office hours, which are the mandatory hours that professors, sit in their offices awaiting your arrival several times a week, you will interact with them, often in a very personal way. I know that there's some professors a lot of my friends have taken classes with that consistently hold their office hours outside under a very particular tree, and you're invited to go and join them for, questions or just philosophical discussions about nature. So I think especially, within environmental science and policy management, within our College of Natural Resources, within our geography department, places where I spend a lot of time, professors do really enjoy kind of just talking about things external to class with their students as well. I took a course in geomorphology, which is landscape processes. And the professor, every single class, he was like, you want travel recommendations? You want road trip recommendations? Come to my office hours. I will tell you where to find the best karst terrain, to find the best fault scars. Yeah, so that was really fun. I actually was going on a backpacking trip that semester to a state park south of San Jose, near where Jimmy's from, Henrico State Park. And he was able to provide some very interesting insights into sort of how the land was formed and all of that. Yeah, so kind of overall, I think professors are actually quite friendly, but they are humans, and you might like some more than others. Some of my professors, I admire and respect all of them, but some of them I just have a more personal connection with. We have things in common, and I enjoy just kind of hanging out with them and getting to know them as people, in addition to my instructors.
Yeah, definitely make use of office hours. It's a great opportunity to get to know your professors. I know in a lot of classes, at least the ones I've taken, I've had professors pretty much beg us to go to office hours. They're kind of lonely in there. They're just kind of sitting around, not doing much. So, go and talk to them. They're bored. Okay, so next question for Zeynep. So, what was your experience like coming in as an international student?
That's an amazing question. For me personally, it was amazing. And the one thing that people always ask me as an international student is that, is Istanbul really different to Berkeley? And it might seem like it because, two different continents, two completely different countries, but weirdly enough, I found these two cities to be super similar. People in Berkeley are so warm, they're so welcoming, and they're so open to everything. So you never feel like you're left out of the group, if you will. They always, Berkeley students as well, they always try to include you. They always try to make sure that you're comfortable with whatever you guys are doing, and they try to help you the best they can, because people here, the culture here is super collaborative. People here care about each other, and you really feel that through people's actions. For example, when I was sick, two of my roommates actually went to the ER with me. They didn't have to, it was the middle of the night, and they just took me and they took care of me. Thankfully, it was nothing too serious, so we didn't need to stay too long, but they stayed there the whole time still. And I feel like that's the perfect example regarding people here at Berkeley. And as an international student, that collaborative atmosphere is so important because you really don't know a lot of people when you come here. I mean, probably not. At least for me, I only knew like two other people when I came here first. And this is a school with more than 30,000 undergrads. So not a lot, I didn't know a lot of people. So that collaborative atmosphere really helps you make friends and really helps you settle down in Berkeley, which I feel like is the reason why I had such a good time as an international student and am having such a good time as an international student.
Just to point out the backgrounds on some of our panelists, they do say hashtag Bears Care. I think that's a pretty good example of that. But if you are curious, hashtag Bears Care is more about particularly social distancing, washing your hands, just community efforts to keep each other safe. But yes, I think what Zeynep was also describing is related to hashtag Bears Care. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so next question for Jimmy. So someone asked, what is there to do off campus, like in the city of Berkeley?
Yes, I can answer this. And I always love answering this question when my friends ask me, or like when people out of town are coming to Berkeley. I think there actually is a lot of things to do in Berkeley. Some of my favorite things is definitely exploring locally owned businesses and restaurants. I think that's something that I really love about Berkeley. And I think that's what made me fall in love with the city, is that you can't really, it's really hard to find those like big chain restaurants or stores, because we just value that locally owned spirit here in Berkeley. So there's a lot of ethnic foods that you can find within the city of Berkeley. For me, I always try to make an effort to see or go to somewhere new, or try a new restaurant in the city of Berkeley every single weekend if I can. In terms of like things to do, there are a lot of nature things, or like things to go to. For example, we have the Berkeley Rose Garden. There's also the UC Botanical Gardens. I personally like doing a lot of like sightseeing and like sunset chasing. So I like to go up to the Lawrence Hall of Science. And in the air, there's like an overlook vista point where you can just see like the city of Berkeley and the Bay Area. It's also near Grizzly Peak, which is also a great place to just see like the skyline. Um, and if you're like feeling a little bit more adventurous, there's also the Berkeley Marina where you can just see like the bay. And Berkeley is also only like a 30-minute subway ride away from San Francisco, if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, there's lots of things to do all over Berkeley and the greater Bay Area. Definitely recommend checking those out if you have the time. Lots of great restaurants, activities, all sorts of things to do. Okay, so next question for Violet. How did you make friends at Berkeley, and is that hard as a freshman?
That's an excellent question. So I don't think it's difficult as a freshman. I mean, I remember my very first night in Unit 2, which, I claim is the best dorm on campus. It's very similar to Unit 1, but right next door, slightly different. Regardless, so I remember my very first night after I moved into Unit 2. I was like with my roommates and we were talking, and we were like, wow, like this is so weird. Like there's all these people on this floor and we don't know any of them. So we kind of just like started doing exactly what we were doing in our room, but in the hallway, kind of like, maybe, somebody will just like come and join. And in like under 30 minutes, there were like 15 people from our floor sitting in the hallway, just like chatting, getting to know each other. And I think that really shows how like everybody's in the same boat when they're, around 18 years old, moving into a dorm, leaving home for the first time. Everyone is kind of like nervous and scared and doesn't really know what college is going to be like or who their friends are going to be. And so these kinds of places like freshman dorms or the dining hall tend to have lots of conversations in between people who've never met each other before. It's okay to sit down next to someone you've never met and be like, oh, hey, I read that book you're reading. Let's talk about it. And that's not considered like weird, and it's welcomed. And it happens a lot. And a lot of my friends have, met the people that they're closest to because they were in the dining hall with someone who they might not even know anymore, but that person was like introduced them to this other person and they became best friends. Along with that sort of just, general like running into people, I think that joining student organizations, especially for me, was a really, really wonderful way to make friendships. Because I don't know, I think some people it's kind of hard, it's scary to like talk to strangers. But Cal Ballroom, the dance team I'm on in particular, people were so kind. And what Zeynep was saying, I really, really felt like people went out of their way to make new students feel welcome and to include new students and to learn your name and to invite you to things. And a lot of different clubs on campus have sort of like family structures where they group younger students with older students, and they do fun things like they have little secret Santa parties, or they go and have like study groups with their families. And it's a really, really nice way to kind of get to know older students on campus, get to know their friends. I ended up getting along really, really well with my family head that first year. And then she started, inviting her ballroom partner to like all of the things that we did with her. And then he started inviting his friends. And so I ended up like meeting all of these really cool juniors when I was a freshman. And I'm really good friends with them to this day, even though they've graduated by this point.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I think, especially in these different circumstances, it's probably, I'd still say that joining clubs and different student organizations is probably one of the best ways to meet new people despite the circumstances, especially if you're not living on campus. Then, if you're living at home, generally don't really have those same interactions, but still, you can join clubs. They're always recruiting, always looking for new people to join. All right, next question. This one's for Zeynep. So, what has your experience been like learning over Zoom, and what is a normal day in the life of a Berkeley student during COVID?
This might be my favorite question since it is so relevant to every single person in the world right now. I'll answer it in two parts. My experience learning over Zoom actually has been great, especially this semester, because over the summer, Berkeley actually launched an initiative called Semester in the Cloud, where they made sure to formulate all of the classes um, that was appropriate for an online, like in an online manner, if you will. Um, in the spring, a lot of professors had a hard time because every single thing that they knew got overhauled in a matter of a week, less than a week even maybe. So they had to make sure that we were still learning effectively, but they didn't really have a lot of time. So the spring semester was kind of hectic, but over the summer, they were able to look back at what they were teaching, formulate the lectures, upload the appropriate documents, and determine what an appropriate form of teaching would be over Zoom. And I feel like they really did a good job. Currently, I'm taking 4 classes and I also have a lot of responsibilities, but I really don't feel that overwhelmed. Whereas normally I would be, I think, if the online learning wasn't as effective as it is currently. And all of my professors are super understanding of everything. This one time, I completely forgot a homework and the due date had passed and you couldn't submit it after the due date. It's not like I could late submit it. And I just emailed the professor being like, hi, I'm so sorry. I'm just getting used to everything right now and I completely forgot about this homework. Could I please do this and submit it tonight? And he actually said yes. He was like, thank you for being honest with me. I get it. Like, we all are going through a hard time. And he just gave me that extension and I was able to submit the homework, which was super nice of him. Coming to the second part of the question, before I answer the second part, since it is about COVID and since Albert kind of touched upon this, as you can tell from Jimmy's and I's background, it has #BearsCare, and Jimmy's has practiced social distancing and mine has wash hands often. And that is part of our social norms campaign for COVID because as every single person in this panel mentioned, Berkeley students care and Berkeley people care about others. And the social norms campaign just promotes safe practices for COVID. And a lot of my friends actually had their photos taken with their masks on. There's this one bear statue on campus called Sturdy the Bear. He's very close to the Hall School of Business, actually. And that gigantic bear statue is also wearing a custom fit mask. currently, so I think that's beautiful. But speaking about what a normal day looks like, my normal day might seem a bit intimidating. It is quite funny, actually. So Istanbul is currently 11 hours ahead of Berkeley, and I decided to just follow Pacific time while in Istanbul. So I wake up at 7 p.m. and go to bed at like 8, 9 a.m. But that decision is completely on me, if I'm being honest, because if I wanted to continue my education asynchronously, I would have been able to do so. But I personally cannot upheld the schedule if I set it myself. I have to have like a schedule set by others or set by the school for me to actually attend everything. So that's why I'm doing everything synchronously. But a lot of my international friends are actually living as normal as they can. They're living according to their own time zones. But and my days during the week really differ from each other. My Mondays are super hectic, they're super full, but my Thursdays are completely free. So in college, you will come across that where no other day looks the same because, as Violet mentioned, there are a lot of clubs, and you will join clubs, and those clubs will have meetings on different days. You'll maybe become a ULM like I am, I'll explain what a ULM is also. So I'm basically helping the GSI, the graduate student instructor in Bio 1B during lab times. So I answer students' questions, I help with quiz making. So as you can imagine, that also takes a lot of time out of my week. And that's why my Mondays are so hectic. So you'll have those responsibilities, you'll have different classes for different days, and your days will look really different, but you really get used to it. And I really appreciate having your free day on Thursday. That really helps. I can just catch up on all of my homework and my lectures that day. I really like that. So yeah, a normal day with COVID is pretty crazy, but so far it has worked out, and hopefully I'll be back at Berkeley next semester, so I won't have to deal with the time difference. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't been easy transitioning to online. I don't think it's been easy for anyone, but I think with each day we are making efforts in the right direction, steps in the right direction overall. All right, next question. This one's for Violet. So, what are some popular extracurriculars and how can I get a good balance of academic and social life at Berkeley?
Great question. So I will be a little bit biased in answering this question, based off of my own extracurriculars. But I think that in general, so California has amazing weather. Bay Area has even better weather. Well, maybe if you're from LA, you'd dispute that, but I'm from here. So I think Bay Area has great weather. So it's really nice to be outside basically all year round. I'm in Berkeley right now. It's November 10th, and it's like 60 degrees and sunny outside with a light breeze coming off the bay. It's beautiful. It's a really nice day. No clouds in the sky. Anyways, so this makes outdoor activities really popular. So basically all year round, you will find people hanging out on Memorial Glade, this giant grassy circle in the middle of campus, kind of lying out on a picnic blanket, reading a book, maybe studying, or, tying a slack line in between two trees, playing their guitar on the glade, playing Quidditch on the glade, putting a water slide on the glade, all sorts of, crazy nonsense that college students get up to on campus. In addition to that, so Berkeley is really well connected to a whole bunch of local hiking trails that are accessible by foot from campus. So even though most students don't have cars or vehicles, because we don't really need to, you can just kind of hike up into the woods and hang out up there, and people do the same stuff, slack lines, climbing, all of that good stuff. Yeah, Berkeley is also known for really good climbing. So a lot of my friends are really into climbing. We have, great gyms and dance teams and sports and athletics and intramural sports and all of those things. But I think a lot of universities have those resources. And I think something that really does make Berkeley unique is this kind of like access to the outdoors. In terms of other popular extracurriculars, a lot of students are involved in activities like Model United Nations or in various consulting groups. There are a lot of people who are in sort of like academic clubs. So I would say that probably at least like half of students are in some sort of club affiliated to their major. So I don't like do much with them, but technically I'm a member of Berkeley's group of undergraduate geography students. So sometimes they have cool people come in and give talks. There's like career fairs and resume workshops. Alums come and speak about, you know, what they did with their geography degree. So there's a lot of really good sort of like networking, extracurricular opportunities, which I'd say are pretty popular. And then there's also a lot of really good like things to do in nature, ways to get out, ways to exercise, all of that fun stuff. In general, the Bay Area has like a pretty cool art scene. There's a lot of, you know, museums, especially in Oakland and San Francisco. So for students who are artists, there's a lot of performance opportunities. There's a lot of places to go and see really amazing concerts. Yeah, it's something I really love about the Bay. I feel like we have, you know, kind of like the culture of a city, and we have like the nature of the middle of nowhere. So kind of all over the place. In terms of getting a balance of extracurriculars, I would say, well, I have some friends who have the philosophy that you should never do homework on the weekend because, you know, they spend every weekend out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. That's not realistic for every student. Sometimes I have to do homework on the weekends and I don't really have a choice. So for me, it just means like sort of being willing to accept that, like, you know, I might have to be flexible about when I go to the gym, or like which dance practices I go to and which ones I don't. And like things will fluctuate, and people understand that in college. They're like, oh, you had a midterm this week, like don't worry about it, you do not need to come, like you were studying, I understand. So sort of just like having that flexibility and like getting things in where you can has been a really valuable like life skill, I'd say. For me, I think I learned a lot about sort of like how to take care of myself as an adult, because there are so many things going on all the time and so many things I want to do and I can't always do all of them. And if I do want to do all of them, I have to, you know, figure out how to get all my work done beforehand. So yeah, it can be hard, but it can be done. And there are so many fun things to do on campus.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things to do all over campus. I think the main thing, like Violet said, is just finding time to do everything. And there's so much to do. And considering you have to juggle, you know, schoolwork and having fun, it's hard to balance those things. But I think part of just going to college is eventually you figure out, okay, here's what I need to do, here's what I can do, here's what I want to do, and how to prioritize all that. Eventually, you kind of get a sense of how to do it. You know, not exactly, of course, because you're still young, but kind of get a sense, I think, at least. Okay, next question. So, I have done some research on the Student Health Insurance Plan, SHIP. So, what exactly is that, and what are the health services offered on campus? And this one's for Jimmy.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to answer that. So like Albert mentioned, the Student Health Insurance Plan, or you'll often hear it abbreviated as SHIP, is our student health insurance plan, of course. So here at UC Berkeley, and I believe also at other UC campuses, students are required to have some sort of health insurance plan. So SHIP is the program that is offered through the school. However, if you do have your own health insurance plan through, say, for example, your parents, you are able to waiver that SHIP fee. And it'll take up, I think, about $1,500 each semester from your total cost of attendance. And some services that are offered through SHIP, specifically our Ting Center, which is our university health service center, they offer primary and urgent care. So if you're sick, or if you just want like to do like a wellness check, those are services that are offered at the Ting Center. There is also the optometry eye center where you can get an eye exam. I know like my friend who has SHIP was able to get glasses and only had to pay like a $10 copay in order to get the glasses. And after doing that eye exam, they also offer this program called the Counseling and Psychological Services. They offer counseling services to students, whether or not you have SHIP. I believe it's like free. UC Berkeley students have a certain number of free counseling sessions. That program in particular is something that I want to like share and talk about. I think like we always, like on a lot of university campuses, we always hear about, yeah, like these counseling services are available, but I feel like there isn't a lot of talk of what that process is actually like. So I just want to take a brief moment and share that I've actually used the CAPS program myself here at UC Berkeley. And I think overall, I had a really great experience. when I first reached out, the staff there were really nice in helping me set up my first appointment with a counselor. And during your first appointment, you do like a counseling session where they just get a feel of like what your situation is or why you're reaching out to help or reaching out for help. And after that initial counseling session, your counselor would follow up with basically making kind of like a plan of what the next sessions, what you and the counselor will be doing in the next session. So there's just like a little thing I wanted to share, just to like destigmatize mental health and counseling. And something else I want to share is through the SHIP program and through the Ting Center, there's also something called the Health Opportunity Fund. And what that is that after you get services through the Ting Center, there is a small fee that you have to pay called a copay. However, with the Health Opportunity Fund, they will help cover you. They will help cover the extra fee, so your services are essentially free if you use that fund. So, oh, and one more thing, there's also something called the Path to Care Center, which helps survivors, which helps offer support to survivors of sexual harassment and sexual violence. So they're a confidential service that students can go to if they're within those situations, and the staff there will help students navigate and offer services.
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking those out. We have a lot of health and mental health resources available to everyone on campus. And you are paying for them, so if you ever need them, then certainly make use of them. Definitely just head on down to the Tank Center. It's near the southern end of campus, so should be pretty accessible for most students. So just make sure to make use of it if you ever have a need for it. All right, next question. This one is for Zeynep. So, since Berkeley is in an urban area, how safe is it around campus?
So I'll start by saying that, also a great question, but I'll start by saying that Berkeley is as safe as any other urban area. It of course has its own issues, but literally any single city you go to, you will have the same issues, and Berkeley doesn't have anything specific going against it. But again, urban areas unfortunately might be a bit unsafe no matter where you are. But Berkeley provides us with so many resources that I've actually never felt unsafe in Berkeley. We have a lot of night safety resources. Two of them are the night safety shuttle, which operates between dawn and 3 a.m. and it has its stations, and it's completely free of charge. You only have to show your Cal student ID card when you're getting on the bus, and it will take you to wherever you need to go around the campus. And after 3 a.m., it actually doesn't stop operating at 3 a.m. It just becomes a door-to-door shuttle, which is amazing, and it continues until dawn. So after 3 a.m., for example, you've been studying and you forgot what time it was, and currently it's 4 a.m. and you have to go back to your dorm or to your house. You can just ask the driver of the shuttle to take you where you need to go, and they'll take you to exactly where you need to go, which I think is super cool. Another great service is if you don't live that far away, but if you still don't want to walk on your own in the night, we have Bear Walk. And Bear Walk is a service that has UCPD trained student officers, and these student officers will walk you from wherever you are, for example, one of the libraries, to wherever you want to go, for example, Unit 1, the best dorm. And so you never feel unsafe on campus or off campus while walking to wherever you need to go. And actually, one of my friends was a Bear Walk officer, and he totally loved it. So never feel awkward calling them, and never feel awkward reaching out for help. These services are there for us students to use. And if you need them, or if you just want to be safe rather than sorry, just use the services. They're free of charge for us students. And a great thing is all of these important numbers are at the back of our Cal ID cards. So you don't even have to memorize anything. You just can look at the back of your ID card and see, oh, this is the number for Bear Walk. Let me call them. Another service that I think is super important is about the dorms. The dorms have a three-way security system in them. The first part of the three-way security system is actually getting into the building itself, which is through your Cal ID card. As you will realize, your Cal ID card is one of the most important cards you'll carry on campus. It allows you access to a lot of buildings that you normally wouldn't have access to. So your dorm building, and one of the great things is that your Cal ID card only allows you access to your own dorm building. You cannot get into another building with your card. After you get into your building, you'll have to tap in your card to the elevators or the staircases. So once you're in the building, you have to go up to your floor. Well, you can only do that with, again, your ID card. And once you're on your floor, you have your dorm key, which allows you access to your own dorm room, obviously. And during the night, this three-way system actually becomes a four-way system, which again is amazing. After like 10 p.m., you will see a student officer in the front desk, and after tapping into the building, before tapping into the elevators or the staircases, you'll have to tap into the system, and they'll well, not grant you, but they'll allow you to continue on to the elevators. So again, Berkeley has a lot of services in place for us students to feel safe and be safe. And again, Berkeley is an urban area, and that brings its own challenges, but it's no different from, I'll say, Istanbul, because that's the only other urban area I'm completely familiar with. And I'll say that Berkeley is a lot safer than Istanbul, so take what you will from that. But yeah, the services are amazing, and I've definitely used a lot of them. And people offering those services and working for those services are also very amazing, and they actually care about you.
Yeah, as someone who's lived in the city for my life, I just have to say, keep aware of your surroundings, and that's how generally you'll be fine. I'd say just don't dig too deep into your phone, constantly staring at it as you go down the street. That's generally not the not the best idea, because sometimes you walk into a sign or something. Doesn't feel very good. Violet, I believe you wanted to add on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would love to. I always like exactly what you guys are saying is usually what I say, because I grew up in Berkeley, and the thing that, like, growing up here I kind of know already is that anything that goes down is usually around campus, because oftentimes, college students, they like haven't been away from home. Maybe a lot of times they didn't grow up in a city, so they're not kind of used to just like, maybe don't like walk around staring at your phone. Maybe you should like put it away in your pocket so that you're, aware of your surroundings. Yeah, so that kind of thing I think goes a really long way. And I would definitely recommend that, you do that. And just also, I would say, like, I never felt unsafe in Berkeley. I think that's something you develop the longer you're here, is a sense of like, okay, so Berkeley is an interesting place. There's a lot of interesting people here. It's sort of like renowned for, a lot of people call it Berkeley. That's another name for it. It tends to attract really, like, I would say people who you would consider characters is a feature of this city. And so something that I feel like I have developed a very good sense of is like, is this person just a little bit weird? Or is this person, somehow dangerous or going to hurt me? And I think 99.99% of the time, this person is just an unusual fellow who happens to be, talking to themselves or like do, whatever they might be doing. And so having that sense, and also just being aware of my surroundings, I think has made it so that I really never feel unsafe in Berkeley.
All right. Yeah, definitely agree with Violet there. Just stay aware of your surroundings. I think that's the number one thing. You should be fine. All right, next question. This one's for everyone. So, what is your favorite class that you have taken at Berkeley? And Jimmy, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can start off. So I think my favorite class that I've taken here at Berkeley was during my first semester as a freshman. I took this class called Drugs in the Brain with Professor David Presley. For those of you who might not know, Professor David Presley, I think he's pretty well known. I think he has like an award winning for like best outstanding teacher at Berkeley or something like that. And the way I found the class was through the Big Ideas Discovery courses. And the reason why this was my favorite class, because as a political science major, I would have never expected to take a class that was outside my own academic field. I had taken it to fulfill a breadth requirement for my college, for the College of Letters and Sciences. And what made this class really interesting to me was Professor Presley, he was just so passionate about what he was teaching. And he would always like make our lectures so lively, even though it was like 10 a.m. He would play music before class that like really brightened up my spirits. Every week he would try to bring something to class for us to see, like before he started teaching, he would like travel the world to explore like these different like substances and like plants and all this stuff. And he actually like would bring some of them to class. Like he brought these like leaves that he got from like another country. Like I don't remember what they were, but I just remember like it was so cool. And I know like for one of his other classes, he'll bring like a brain to class. Like I don't know if it's real, like, but I know I've heard like he'll bring like an actual brain to class for everyone to see. He'll like share anecdotes of his experience traveling the world. So I think for me, like, I think for him as a teacher to be so passionate in what he's teaching and to just like bring so much excitement to the class, I think that's what really made this class my favorite so far during my experience here.
All right, Zeynep.
I'll give two examples because one is related to my major and one is completely unrelated. The one related to my major is actually Bio 1B. It is one of the general biology courses, the one I'm currently an undergraduate learning mentor for, so that should tell you everything. But before taking Bio 1B, I thought I hated plant biology, and Bio 1B definitely has a lot of plant biology in it, including ecology. I just thought I hated those. I thought I liked anatomy more or genetics more regarding biology, but apparently that's not the case because I enjoyed the class so much. The professors and the GSIs, the graduate student instructors, were all amazing. And the reason I decided to become a ULM was actually because of my GSI for my lab sections. She was just so passionate about what she was doing, and she was actually a great teacher. And I feel like she's going to become a great professor one day once she graduates from grad school. So I just loved every single thing about the class, and that class is the reason why I'm doing a biological concentration for environmental sciences, because environmental sciences has 3 different concentration options, and I didn't know what to choose. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck between biological and physical, and I decided that physical just wasn't for me. I just enjoyed biology so much. Even the subject areas in biology that I previously thought I hated. So yeah, that class definitely put me in the path that I'm currently taking, which I really appreciate. The other class that I really enjoyed, which is completely unrelated to my major, is called History 132C. It is the American Religious History, and I took it for the American cultures requirement that every single Berkeley student has to take. As Jimmy mentioned, there are breadth requirements, and those change from college to college or even from major to major, depending on your college. But requirements such as American cultures, the reading and composition requirements, every single Berkeley student has to take them, or somehow have to, take AP classes to make sure that they're taken care of. So I took that for the American cultures requirement, and I just loved it because even though I'm a sciencey person, I really enjoy humanities and I really enjoy learning about history, especially about religious history, since Turkey is very religiously diverse, even though the majority of the country is Muslim. The communities I've been in have been so diverse that it's quite unreal. And I just really wanted to learn about the religious history in the US because the religious history in a country can actually shine a light about the general history regarding the country and how a country operates. And I was interested in that since I would be in the US for the upcoming 4 years. And I really do believe that learning more about the country you're situated at and you're going to stay at for a while is quite important because that allows you to understand how people think, how people operate. And the professor was actually really good. I never missed a lecture, even if I was sick. Not contagious sick, just feeling bad, but I never skipped a class since it was so interesting. And that class also allowed me to go into the university archives, the Bancroft Library, which was super cool. I got to handle a document from 1857. So super cool. Would recommend if you ever come to Berkeley and need to take an American cultures class.
All right, and Violet.
Talking about my favorite class is so hard, Albert. you guys both had really good, like, clear-cut examples, but I think the honest answer to, like, what is my favorite class at Berkeley is probably, like, whatever class I'm taking, whatever class I'm most excited about next semester. It's like, I feel like I'm always just excited about, like, whatever class I get to take next. There's as far as classes that I've actually already taken, I think there's a lot of, like, different favorites for different reasons. I took this advanced data science course. I kind of, like, learned how to code through my research and taught myself a bunch of stuff, and it seemed really useful, and I wanted to learn more. So I ended up just taking Data 100, which is this advanced data science course. I took it pass no pass. I just wanted to learn a bunch of stuff, and I learned so much. It was amazing. I felt like it was a really, really, like, thorough and broad introduction to so many, like, computational concepts that I don't get exposed to in my coursework in geography or in the physical sciences. And I think it just sort of, like, shaped how I think about a lot of problems in my lab work, because I do have this, like, statistical and computational and data centric background now. So that class was just amazing because I, like, learned so much, and the GSIs were so helpful, and the TAs and office hours were amazing. But, you know, there's also, like, biogeochemistry, where I got to, like, collect leaves and, like, sample their moisture loss and, like, hang a sticky trap in my backyard and count the bugs that landed on it and collect soil samples at Oxford Tract, which is this big green area across the street from UC Berkeley. So I don't know, like, I think I'm very much a generalist, and I like a lot of different things. And one of my favorite things about Berkeley is that, you know, you can specialize and you can get a degree in geography and work with some of the best geographers in the world. Or you can, you know, get a degree in geography, but take, like, a million classes in totally different departments, and, like, the major is flexible enough, I'm allowed to, you know, have substitutions and use those classes for degree credit. And so, yeah, I just, whatever class I'm taking next, or, you know, maybe Data 100 and biogeochemistry were two highlights.
Yeah, I guess I should answer that as well. Kind of similar to Violet, it's very hard to decide exactly what is my favorite class. I have a couple favorite ones. I'll just run through them real quick. Took a class on wildfires my first semester. I thought that was pretty good. Learned about how, you know, why are wildfires occurring so often in California? A pretty topical topic to talk about. And, you know, how Native Americans tied into that in the past with controlled burns that they did. Also really enjoyed this class on classical music I took with a professor, Nicholas Math. He had a British accent. He also would just play on the piano sometimes. It was pretty fun to hear just about history and music and all that. I like history, so I thought that was pretty cool. Right now I'm taking a personal finance class. That one is generally what people usually wouldn't consider fun, but I consider it useful information to have. I actually do enjoy the class. I feel like I have learned a lot of useful tips on how to manage my finances in the future. So important skill to have. And of course, a lot of the computer science and cognitive science courses I've taken, those are all great. You learn a lot of great things on how the computers work, how to code stuff. Pretty cool. All right, next question. So as we all know, the application deadline is coming up at the end of this month. So, what advice do you have for the seniors going through the application process right now? And what did you wish you knew before applying to college? And Zeynep, do you want to start us off with that one?
Yes, of course. I feel like you guys being here is the best possible choice before the application deadlines, because as a Turkish student, I didn't have that choice. And at the time, Berkeley wasn't offering any online tours or any online panels. So COVID actually brought a positive, I believe, in the sense that a lot of universities, I believe nearly all of the universities, are doing some form of online tour. And you guys are now able to attend whatever university's tour you're interested in, no matter how far away you may be. So I think that's super cool, and that's super important in getting to know a university, because you can always read the websites, you can always look at the information yourself, but these student panels and these student given tours give insight to the student perspective, which I believe is a super important aspect when considering different universities. And the reason why I chose Berkeley was because that, like, it relates to this. I had read on Facebook about like anecdotes from Berkeley students. Cora was my best friend basically at the time. I was looking at every single thing that related to, oh, Berkeley versus this university, Berkeley versus that university. So yeah, just joining these panels and tours are one of the best possible choices. And what I wish I knew before applying, well, it's never going to be exactly what you expect college. You can, no matter how much you prepare yourself, you're still going to be blindsided somehow, because it's impossible to get to know a university unless you grew up literally in the city of the university. So you'll get to learn more about the city. You might see something that you never expected, but that thing might be the best thing possible for you, which for me was actually the ski team. I never would have thought that a school in California would have a ski team. I didn't even know California had mountains, but apparently California has great mountains and they're gigantic. So another plus, because I love snowboarding. I've been doing it for 11 years now. So yeah, you'll always be surprised with whatever you discover, but don't be afraid to branch out, and don't be afraid to discover the things that you might not have considered while you're doing your research.
Or and Jimmy, I think you wanted to add on to this, right?
Yeah, I just really want to echo Zeynep's point on getting those student perspectives, because I feel like getting like that is what will give you a better sense of what a campus culture or campus community is like. And just like specifying that, like, or clarifying that, like, we're not from admissions, but I think my personal advice when writing your personal insight questions is that, be really true to yourself. I know that's easier said than done. I think some of my difficulties when I was writing my personal insight question is like, like, what should I write about? Like, what do they want to hear? And something that a lot of my mentors and my advisors have told me is like, like, don't write what you think these admissions officers want to hear, because what they want to see is like your true self and like what you have to offer to their campus community. And I think with that piece of advice, like, I think that is what really like helped made my personal insight questions better, because I was really able to share what I was really passionate about. Like, I personally wrote about like my passion for like public service and like working in local government. And here I am today studying political science at UC Berkeley. And like, I just think it's crazy how like everything just like came together, and like here I am today.
Yeah, just to add on as well. I'm not a member of the admissions team at Berkeley, so I can't speak 100% to this, but I do think the personal insight questions are one of the most important things in the application. Of course, you have things like your grades, your extracurriculars, all these sorts of different things, but you know, there are thousands of people applying, and a lot of them do have similar statistics, similar participations in various groups. So I think it's the essays that ultimately help to differentiate you from these other people and help you stand out from the crowd. So just make sure to put a lot of time into those. Start early. If you haven't started early, then please definitely start. But yeah, just make sure that you spell check everything on those, that everything makes sense, that really that your true self is really showing in your essays. And I think that'll go a long way wherever you may end up. All right, so to close us off with our final question of the day. So, why Berkeley? There are so many different schools all across this country, all across the world. What made you apply to this school, and what ultimately made you choose this school to spend the next 4 years of your life at? And Violet, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, totally. So I have like the most underwhelming Berkeley story ever. I grew up here and I did not want to go to Berkeley. I was like, okay, none of my friends are even applying because we're all like, we've lived here forever. I am out of here. I was on the same page, but my older brother went to UC Berkeley. And so I had to apply because I had to prove he was not smarter than me. He was not cooler than I am. So I applied to Berkeley. And, a few months later, get all my acceptances back. And I very quickly realized, I would rather not pay twice the cost of in-state tuition. So I'm going to go to UC. And of the UCs I got into, Berkeley is like way closer to what has better programs and what I want to do. It's in a place I want to be. It just seems like a better fit for me. And so it was like, okay, it's fine. I'll go to Berkeley. I'll do 4 years and I'll like grind it out. And, I'll hate the whole time and then it'll be over. I arrived at campus. Very quickly, I realized, thank God I did not get into UCLA, because I would have gone to UCLA. And in retrospect, just like in terms of the campus culture, like people being outdoorsy, people being super open, people loving environmental science and like caring so much about sort of social justice and all sorts of issues like this, I really do fit in here. And maybe that's because I grew up here. But I love Berkeley. I love the Bay Area. I love the weather. I love the people. I love the food. And so I fit in here really well. And I am so, so glad that I ended up here. I've had an amazing experience. And I hope that you guys do too if you come here as well.
All right, and Zeynep?
My Berkeley story might be the most ridiculous story ever, because I made a very funny mistake in my application. Every single place I applied to, every single university I applied with an astrophysics major, including UCLA. I only applied to 2 UCs, and like every single application had astrophysics as my major preference. But somehow, I still don't know how, I managed to apply to an environmental sciences degree at Berkeley, and I only realized my mistake after getting my acceptance, which only happened in like the start of June, because I got in through the wait list. So I had to decide which university to go to while I was waiting for Berkeley's decision on me after getting waitlisted. And I had chosen actually UCLA, because obviously I wanted to study in the US, and these two were the best schools I had gone into or gotten waitlisted from, even though Berkeley was my top choice. Now, don't get me wrong, UCLA is amazing. It's just that I'm not a hot weather person. So I really appreciate the weather in Berkeley. I hate hot weather. And UCLA has hot weather. But even if I hadn't gotten to Berkeley, I think I would have been very happy there, even though I don't know much about it. But yeah, so I open my acceptance. I read, oh, congratulations, the confetti pops up. You've been accepted into UC Berkeley, and with the major of environmental sciences and the College of Natural Resources. That's what it used to be called before becoming the Raspberry College of Natural Resources. Excuse me. And yeah, I was like, what am I gonna do? Can I switch between colleges? Can I switch between majors? You can. I called the 2 departments in like 3 a.m. my time, and I was really panicking. But at the end, I decided to come to Berkeley, and you know what? I was like, this is still my top choice. I can always switch between majors, and whatever happens, happens. Well, after a semester and after taking some major requirements for environmental sciences while also taking major requirements for astrophysics, I saw that, well, I actually really enjoy environmental sciences more so than I thought. And maybe I don't enjoy physics as much as I used to. So I still decided to keep on taking the major requirements for astrophysics until the end of my first year. I took a lot of maths and physics, but I still decided to, you know what, let's give environmental sciences a chance. You never know what happens. And again, that one biology class I took completely changed my path. I decided, well, you know what, I apparently love biology and this is what I'm gonna do. Environmental sciences it is. So here I am, loving Berkeley. I'm so glad I came here. I think I made the best choice possible for myself. Regarding, of course, the weather, because Berkeley, as Violet mentioned, has the best weather possible. It's so mild, it's the best. But other than that, regarding student life and regarding academics, I feel like Berkeley has just this spirit that's unmatched. Like every single Berkeley student is so passionate and so spirited, and I just thrive in those kinds of conditions. I need others to be excited about stuff as much as I am, even if those things that they're interested in are different. So that's my Berkeley story. No matter how ridiculous it got me here, and I couldn't be more appreciative.
All right, and Jimmy?
Yeah, both of you had like amazing stories, and it's like crazy to hear like your road to Berkeley. I think for me, when I was a high school senior, how I narrowed down what school I wanted to go was listening to student experience, like asking my friends who were going to different colleges at the time. So I really want to like echo what Zeynep said for the last question. That the previous question we had is just like seeking out those stories. For me, like when I had spoken to my friend who's going to UC Berkeley, I think she really I was sold after hearing her story, because she was just like, her eyes lit up and she was just so happy and passionate talking about how like Berkeley opened her eyes to the world. And I think that's something that's really incredible about Berkeley, is that like it transforms so many students to want to do good in the world and use the power of their education to like share and just do amazing things in their communities. And that's something that I really wanted to do with my own studies as a political science major. And I think for me, like after that moment speaking to my friend, like I knew that Berkeley was for me. And also like just like a side thing, like I think that's also why I love being a campus ambassador, is because I get to share my own story of how I got here to Berkeley. And you know, like I think for everyone, like even after you are admitted to your own colleges, like go out and share your stories, well, like whether or not you go to Berkeley, because you know, like who knows how much of an impact that your story can have on future or prospective students.
All right. Thank you all so much for sharing your Berkeley stories. And I really hope that everyone joining us today will get the chance to tell their own Berkeley stories at some point in the future. So before we officially end off today's panel, just wanted to share some resources for you to stay in touch with us. So make sure to follow us on social media at Visit UC Berkeley. If you have any more questions at all, then please send an email over to tour@berkeley.edu, and a student ambassador will get back to you with the answer to your question. If you're interested in hearing more student perspectives, go ahead and check out the Bear Talk blog at beartalk.berkeley.edu. Also, if you happen to miss anything, then different recorded virtual panels are available on our YouTube channel at Visit UC Berkeley. If you're interested in hearing how Berkeley is responding to COVID-19, go ahead and check out coronavirus.berkeley.edu. Also, we are celebrating 150 years of women at Berkeley, so go ahead and check that out, 150w.berkeley.edu. If you're interested in hearing our admissions presentation, which may be relevant in the coming weeks, go and check that out at admissions.berkeley.edu/visit. And finally, if you're interested in hearing more from us in our regular virtual visits or engineering focused visits, go ahead and check us out at visit.berkeley.edu. And with that, thank you so very much for joining us. I'd like to invite the other ambassadors for a quick Go Bears to close us off on 1, 2, and 3. Go Bears! All right. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.